I'm curious, like, how many people bring their own, like, conspiracy world agenda to Civilization every time they play. We know what Joel's would be, for sure. The value of gold would be off the charts.
So thanks, everyone, for sticking with us. We're here, Rooster Teeth, at E3, presented by Jason Bourne, joined by Ed Beach, to talk about Civilization 6.
Ed Beach is the lead designer for Civilization 6.
I am, and I'm a big Rooster Teeth fan, so I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, well, it's gonna be a very mutual fanboy moment here because Gus and I have been, and Joel have been playing Civilization now for about 2 decades or more.
Yeah, we're huge Civilization fans. I mean, if I don't protect New York from the Zulus, who will?
I said beforehand, I said you were going to bring up the Zulus invading New York. Gus actually failed out of university at Rice University because he was protecting New York from a Zulu invasion. What Civ was that?
That was Civ 2. But yeah, so I mean,
were you able to do it?
Yes. New York stood strong.
Because they have a great save system, so you were able to do it. I'm sure.
Yeah, of course.
Well, we've had so much fun playing Civilization over the years. It's a franchise that we always look forward to. So it's great to have you here with us.
Okay, well, I think we have some footage of Civ 6. We actually have a video that kind of will give you guys some flashbacks from previous Civ experiences, maybe, hopefully not PTSD here, seeing the beginning
No,
of
it'll
our
be
video,
great.
but you'll see some of those old scenes that you'll definitely bring back memories.
Oh, look at this.
Yep.
Wow, this
We're
is the
starting to
formation of the universe.
Exactly, from Civ 1.
Yeah.
So I know it sounds like there are some changes coming with Civilization 6. I'm curious to learn more about. For example, I think the big one. That
Yeah.
really takes me back.
Yep.
The one of the ones I'm most interested in is the fact that now cities can occupy more than one tile. How is that going to really affect gameplay?
It's huge. It's a dramatic change to gameplay. It was actually something that we were interested in doing when we were working on Civ 5. I was the lead designer for the 2 expansion packs, and we experimented with a lot of different things outside the cities. We gave the Incan Empire bonuses for being able to arrange their farms in a clever pattern up against the mountains in Civ 5. We thought about putting wonders out on tiles, but we were changing so much with Civ 5, we were already unstacking the armies,
Right.
that we just knew that there was only so much we could tinker with at the same time. So as soon as we started on Civ 6, we're like, this is the first thing we're going to try, is spreading the cities out. We're going to dive right in and figure out how these districts are going to work outside the city. And the really fun thing about it is they enable you to specialize each city. You have your science city, you have your industrial city. It depends, where that city's located on the map is really important for you to decide which one should be which in terms of the specialization.
Now, when you say where on the map, does that mean in relation to the other cities or resources that are in there?
A lot of it is resource dependent, but
Okay.
also terrain dependent as well. So if you're thinking about a holy site, where do your people want to worship? They want to have like a beautiful vista off into the distance. They want to see mountains there. They want to have like trees nearby. If you have a natural wonder, it is, they're going to go nuts with their worship right there next to the natural wonder.
Great.
So
It's another thing for me to worry about now when I'm making
believe
new
me.
cities.
I'm gonna torture you guys.
I love
because
it. I love it.
You're gonna have
Yeah,
so much to worry about
As it
now.
stands already, anytime I start making a new city, I'm always worried about the resources, and now to have to worry about the landscapes and the vistas as well.
Well, you know what I learned recently, which is there's a fundamental debate over the way people play Civilization. I wasn't even aware of it for playing it for years,
know where
and
you're
I
going.
realized I was on one side of it. And Gus, let me ask you this: when you start the game, when you have a settler, do you explore with that settler, or do you immediately settle them wherever they are?
Oh, that's tough. I've gone both ways on this. Normally, I'll settle immediately, unless I think unless in the periphery I see something that's good that I can get to very quickly, because I feel like if I don't settle immediately, then I'm not building, and then I will immediately be invaded and conquered.
Yeah, it's sure. You see a plane over that way, but then you go to that plane. There's a tundra beyond. You're like, oh, what was I doing?
Right. It's like if I
I have something really fun about this.
Yeah.
And we haven't revealed this to anybody yet.
ooh.
It's that because of that debate that was raging over the internet, like 6 months ago or something, I actually made it so all settlers in Civ 6 have 1 extra tile of visibility.
Wow.
More than they used to in any previous games, just to torture you guys even more.
Is it so that the exploring settler people will feel even more so like, oh, that's really good?
Way
over there.
more temptation.
Gosh, because those
Because imagine one more ring of hexes that you can see. There's just like oh, look,
Yeah.
it looks like there's something great in that direction. Maybe I should wait.
Yeah, you can who knows, 1,000 years from now in the game, there could be plutonium pops up there too. It's like
Yeah.
you got to think about that stuff.
Yeah,
I
so-
love that. I love those kind of debates.
Yeah, normally
Okay,
I'll,
so here we're actually getting a quick look at when you're placing a district. You probably saw that screen that came up.
Yeah.
It had bonuses on every single tile. That's where you could kind of min-max exactly. We're putting in a holy site, so they're trying to decide where to set up their worship.
Great.
And those were the game helping you out with, this spot's a little better. Maybe you want to be over here.
Right.
So is there a fixed number of tiles that a city can occupy, or does that grow as the city grows?
It's similar to Civ 5 in that you start with the 6 tiles around your city right off the bat, and you can grow out to 3 rings out. That gives you 36 tiles around your
Wow.
city, which is plenty to, in terms of trying to have decisions about where to place things. If we'd gone a 4th ring out, everyone's head would have exploded.
Yeah.
So 3 was plenty.
That's more than enough to try to defend from invaders already,
Right.
as it is.
Yes, and
And
you'll
then-
see in a minute, this is our second city here, and they're building an encampment. And the cool thing about the encampment is that, okay, that's where your barracks and your stables and your military academy, those things go.
Right.
But that district itself has hit points and defends itself just like another city. And we
okay.
actually set it up so if you build walls in your cities, you're going to get the range strike ability from Civ 5, and the encampment gets a second range strike as
so
well.
you extend that.
So you want to think about which avenues of attack your invader's going to come from and stick your encampment out that way. Then it's like a speed bump they have to get over even to get to your city.
Oh wow, that's fantastic.
Oh, my head's already reeling thinking about
Now,
it.
if an invading army, do they have an option? Can they take it over, or is it just like you raise it, destroy it?
They can do a lot of damage to your districts without taking over your city.
Really?
The center is still the key thing that flips and determines total control of the city.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see later in the video what your cities look like smoking and ruined because an invader, you haven't lost the city, but the invaders come and just pillage everything.
We see here, are they taking out barbarians there?
Yeah, but the barbarians are interesting in Civ 6 as well. What we've done with the barbarians is they have more intelligence, and they actually send out scouts.
Oh, great.
So barbarian scouts, you think, wow, that's to push over, I can just wipe those out. But they move really quick, and they're tough to pin down.
Yeah.
And if they get back to their camp, and they have seen your city, then they've alerted all their buddies to exactly where your city is.
Oh, wow.
And so if you let them just sit there for a little while, they're going to bring a full-fledged barbarian raiding party to your city, which they know where it is because the scout told them.
Yeah.
And
I'm one of those people in the early game that I just have faith that my opponents haven't built up enough. So barbarians are such a huge hindrance to me in that early game because I maybe don't fortify my cities as much as I should.
It's because you wasted time wandering around looking for the place
Listen,
to build.
Listen,
That's
we're
why.
beyond that. Yeah, but I have such great placement by the time I'm done.
okay, and here's our first leader.
Yeah.
This is Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah, look at that. That's fantastic.
We're going for leaders who are just big personalities this time.
Well, you got a good one here.
And so Teddy is just the coolest guy in the world. And so we decided that we want him to lead America. And you were...
I love the way the map looks, by the way. That's so cool.
Yeah, the Fog of War area it just sort of drops into looking like a parchment map that's all hand-drawn.
Uh-huh.
And it is just the most phenomenal look. We've actually gone for a cartography, Age of Exploration theme sort of for all of our artwork. Even like the user interface looks like old, like astronomical instruments that they use to like sail the seas in the Age of Exploration. And the map is so important in a Civ game
Right.
that it just feels like the right look for a Civ title.
So is that something you've discovered but don't currently have visibility on?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Exactly.
So another thing that I was really curious about is
And we're about to see what a Wonder reveal looks like. So Wonder's being built out on tiles. We're about to put the Great Library down, and when that gets completed, we have the Wonder movies back from Civ 4.
Right.
But now they're in-engine and in the exact spot in your game world where you built them. So, it's not a pre-render movie that just plays the same every time. It's like really fun to look at these animations, every time because it's like, whoa, I've got my mountains in the background,
Yeah.
or like you settle next to a holy site with a natural wonder there. And
I've spent 40 turns trying to get this thing.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
another concern to worry about with placement.
Now, this is the other thing you want to look at is we have day-night cycles in
Oh,
our
wow.
artwork. So in the Wonder movies, we use the day-night cycle to kind of give the idea of the passage of time.
Right.
And so, yes, it took you 40 turns to build it. So it was a lot of day-night cycles, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of go through that. But you're about to see sort of what a relatively, like industrial age city looks like lit up. And these day-night settings, they're a little tricky to play the game with, but you've got total control over how you want to use them. You can turn them on so that they like slowly pass as you go through the game, or you can set the game to 6 p.m. because that's your like favorite kind of lighting. And in this video, we're using it to kind of show off what the cities look like at night.
Oh, so cool.
Can you set it to be like 1-to-1 time to what time it is actually outside?
We've had that request. It just came in this week, and we're going to go back and look at that.
Tweak it a
that's
little bit.
really fun.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
so
for me, it'd
now
be
we're going to
middle of the night all the
see
time.
our city getting rampaged. Cleopatra just popped up on the screen. She's our Egyptian leader, and her army's coming in and going to catch us unaware and trample through a bunch of our districts. Luckily, the video makes sure that the player gets to win ultimately, and so as China, our tanks are going to come in and roll up Cleopatra. But just a little idea of some Civ 6 combat and thinking about what it means now to have so many of your assets of your cities like out there on the map sort of unprotected.
Right.
It's a different feel to the combat.
Not to spoil anything, but that's it. Gus, that's how I play. So let's never play together. But are some classic things from Civilization returning? Like, do Civilization have special units as well?
Absolutely. Everyone, Civ 5, we had 3 unique things per civilization. We've upped that to 4 now.
Wow.
And one of them is always a unique unit. We actually have some kind of unique building district or improvement for every civilization. And then we've tied things in more to the leaders as well. See Cleopatra, we've gotten her. She's given up and going to have the snakes bite her and end her miserable existence in our civilization world this time.
Sorry, you should have killed our scout 2,000 years ago. We hold a grudge.
That's the great thing for me about Civilization is I never let go of those grudges over the course of a game. Or even over the course of multiple games.
Sounds like Shaka and the Zulus got to you back there.
To this day, I'm still talking about it. It's been 20 years. I'm still mad.
They attacked his educational district. That was the first one. They took it down.
It was very successful.
And so here we see like a change in eras. It looks a little bit as well.
We're all the way up in the modern era. There's Big Ben there is one of the wonders. We're going to build the Eiffel Tower here. This is a really good look at the day-to-night cycle. And this is kind of what you would expect a late-game city with all those tiles outside the city filled with either wonders or districts or improvements. It's a busy world. It's tough to kind of you have to almost become a real estate zoning expert at this point because it's like, what are my priorities? There's so many different uses for these tiles outside my city.
What does that do to the management aspect of the game? Of like late in the game maintenance and things like that. What does it do to that?
I think it just presents those challenges that you would envision. You pick what type of victory you're going for. If you're going for the space race, like we're seeing here in the movie here, you're going to have room for a spaceport district and plenty of production facilities to get all the parts for that built. So you might be displacing farms and other things to get that done. If you're going for a cultural victory, we kept what we did in Civ 5, and so that's all about attracting tourists to your civilization. And so we have some late game things. Actually, Teddy's allowed to, like all our leaders, found national parks, and that's a way to draw tourists into your Civ. But I mean, if you've paved over everything and chopped down all the trees,
it's not going to happen.
You're not going to have a national park. But so you have to think about those things like ahead of time. And,
that's great.
And try to manage all that space that you can get.
It sounds like an iteration of the game that really is going to reward multiple playthroughs of,
it's going to take you a while to figure out all the different paths through the game.
To know what to plan for.
That was always one of my favorite things, was trying to pursue each of the different victory types in the game. Whether it's conquering everybody or space exploration or just all these different things. So it sounds like this is even another element layered into that.
Yeah, we actually, that was sort of one of our design principles, was not having one path through the game. Civ 5, our community developed a lot of focus on this is the optimal strategy, this is how many cities you should build, and we've really tried to mix that up a lot. We have a whole new technology and research system that rewards you for going out on the map and having your units undertake little quests to unlock. So like, for instance, if you kill enough barbarians early in the game, you get a bonus towards bronze working, iron working, all those kind of things. And that part of the tech tree opens up for you faster than before.
That's awesome.
So it's actually, it was always felt really dumb to me that you could research sailing and you're in the middle of a landlocked continent.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's going on here? That just doesn't make any sense.
Wait till heavy rain.
And so now what you're doing in the world and where you are and what's around you and how you're playing the game sort of opens up paths that make sense through the game. The other thing that's going to blow your mind I haven't even talked about is we took the tech tree and we split it in two.
What?
We have a tech tree driven by science, and we have a culture tree that we call it the civics tree, driven by culture. So all those things also that didn't make sense, the things like chivalry and code of laws and like, why are those technologies?
Right.
They're not technologies anymore. Now they're over in our civics tree.
Can they be researched in parallel?
They are.
Oh, nice.
Right, so you have two research tracks going on at once. And this whole boost system where you have the little miniature quest, that works on both of those trees. And there's interesting cross-pollination back and forth
but
between
not
the
wholly
trees.
independent.
No, we tie them just enough together that, if you neglect one, it's at the peril of the other.
So something in the tech tree could be unlocked by something in the civics tree.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So, for instance, maybe the technology to build knights helps you get chivalry over in the civics tree, that kind of thing.
Right. Oh, that's incredible. Yeah. And so you don't really have to concentrate on one or the other. You can be working on.
You probably should be working on both, but you'll probably emphasize one or the other.
Otherwise, you'd have like Gus, just all science, no culture whatsoever.
And so another example of that is one thing we allow you to do is we still have the 1 unit per tile combat, so you can see what's on every tile. You can see, this is cavalry, this is infantry, whatever. But we allow some stacking now, so you can grab units that are of the same type, like 2 riflemen, and form a rifleman corps or a rifleman army. But that's something that you have to get to by progressing through to like the Middle Ages, or it's actually a little later than that. It's like the Renaissance and Industrial era where the Corps and the Army come online. But that unlocks, that's sort of an organizational improvement. That wasn't a technology that let you build bigger armies. It was an organizational thing. So we unlock that over in the civics tree. And now if you're this culture player, you actually are better at organizing armies than the science player.
Right.
And so you've got to decide, how am I going to go about conquering these people? Am I going to build big armies, or am I going to just have high-tech stuff?
And does that replace the great leader system from previous versions of the game?
With the great...
Like generals and...
No, we still have great people.
You still have all that stuff?
Yeah,
wow.
We actually pretty much... it took a while for Civ 5 to get all those systems online that were in there by the time we finished with Brave New World. We're going for it all right from the beginning right now.
Wow, that's
it seems like all of that and more.
All of that with all these refinements.
Right.
Yeah.
I do have a question here that we received via Twitter from @DanuFreestyle. They're asking, is Civilization 6 new player friendly? Because it's going to be my first Civ game.
Absolutely. And I mean, the best example of it is we had that one screen come up in the video where you're trying to place your holy site. And that's where we're shooting for with our UI on all of our systems, where there's just so much information coming to assist the player that, plus a lot of the systems are new anyway, so they're going to be just as able to dive in and understand what's going on as any of the players in the game. We're really focusing on a lot of support for first-time users and great systems to just get people in and playing the game. And
it's a game by its nature. It also kind of parses out that learning curve where that first stage is exploration and settling and building up, and it's later in the game when you get into you have more resources, you have more cities to manage and things like that. It gets deeper the longer you play.
And we took exactly that same approach. So, for instance, the great person system that you talk about online, that doesn't come in until the classical era, the second era of the game, just because we know people have enough to deal with in the beginning of the game. And then we have other systems like archaeology that doesn't come in until like the modern era. And we sort of layer things on and sort of stagger how everything's introduced so that, you play through a whole game and nothing feels overwhelming. But by the end of it, you're like, wow, look at all this stuff that
What
I'm doing.
What do you do with archaeology? So you're like...
Yeah, that was in Brave New World. So we actually record information about what happens early in the game, where battles take place, who was fighting, and then later in the game, once you get to archaeology, it's unlocked in our civics tree. All that information comes back out. It's been stored and hidden in the map,
That's great.
And now you can go back to this site. You may not remember that battle because you've probably been playing it for 20 hours.
Or you
till
might
get
not have
there.
been in it.
Yeah, or might not have been in it. Might have
Yeah.
been across the world. But that actual occurrence in our game world is remembered, and you can go dig up remains of it, and you get artifacts to bring back to your museums, and
That's
how you can
incredible.
win a culture victory.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
So if people want to keep up with Civilization ahead of its launch, do you all have a website or social media accounts for them to follow?
Absolutely. We're with 2K Games, but there's a civilization.com is our main website. We've got Twitter, we've got Facebook, whatever. We should also, just real quick before we end, I want to mention our multiplayer.
Please, yeah, please.
Because I don't know how if you guys play online multiplayer or not, but we are really working to up the pace of our games. We have historical scenarios. We don't have to play through all of history. You can just dive in and just, let's battle it out in the Middle Ages today, and then later we'll battle it out in, a World War II era setting. So we're trying to reduce the time commitment it took for a Civilization game. It's not going to be a 6-hour commitment anymore. You can have all sorts of meaningful multiplayer sessions in like 1 or 2 hours now.
See, I had a
great.
long-term strategy to that for playing long multiplayer Civ games where I had 2 sons, and I hooked them on the game, so now I have people who will sit down and play with me for 8 to 10 hours, so it's great.
Yeah, and we don't want to give the impression that if you love playing it for 8 to 10 hours, that we're taking that away, because we're
Right.
not. That's still there.
Yeah, so you can choose the experience that you want.
Exactly.
And when are people going to be able to get their hands on Civ 6?
It's coming soon, October 21st. We'll be releasing on PC.
I know where I'm going to be spending the next couple hundred hours of my life after
Where
October
can
21st.
two hosts get early access to the game?
Wink.
That would be my follow-up
Wink,
question.
just saying.
And of course, if you want to keep up with any of the developing news as Civ 6 approaches its release, you can always subscribe to our channel, youtube.com/know, where we will keep you in the know. Let's kick it back to Joel and Adam.